Hello and welcome to North Lanarkshire Council's online visual arts programme. My name is Rachel and I'll be your tutor for the next 5 weeks. So our theme for these 6 lessons is Blast into Nature. Okay, so let's make a wee start. So today we're going to be thinking about inside your house and outside your house. Now I'm sure you guys have spent a lot of time in your house over the last year, I know I have. But I think sometimes it's quite interesting to really have a look around and try and notice things that you maybe haven't noticed before. So I am doing this from a nice fancy studio, so you'll get a wee behind the scenes sneak preview. I'm going to draw the room that I'm in, but you can do yours. So yeah, just have a look around. Notice things maybe you haven't noticed before, the height of your light switches, maybe the position of photographs on your shelves, if you have a nice light shade, something like that, the colours of your walls, maybe shadows that appear at certain times of day that you might not notice unless you're really looking for them. Okay, so let's make a wee start. For this you can use pens, crayons, pencils, whatever you want, even paint. And I'm just going to show you a couple of examples that I have done previously. So you can see they're quite different. This one is one colour, quite plain, done in quite a chunky pen. And this one is a bit more chaotic. So we have loads of different colours, loads of different things, quite fine pen I've used, and then some a bit thicker up here and in the plant here. But the interesting thing about this one is I haven't done it in the same way that I've done this one as an observational drawing. This one's a bit more abstract and I'm just kind of drawing things maybe in relation to where I think they feel like they are in the room. So my windowsill's along here. This is kind of like a rough sketch of my table with various things on it, and I have a plant off to my side and an armchair kind of way over there. So 2 different kind of takes on it. Again, you can kind of do this how you want, but I'm probably going to do something a bit more like this for this example that I'm going to do. So I'll use a different coloured pen just to keep things interesting. So maybe I'm going to do a red one. I'm just going to get started. So I'm sitting at this kind of desk. And you can kind of be as like detailed and specific as you want with this, or just kind of try and capture the essence of the room. So you can kind of like through pretty rough drawings build up a kind of quite nice sense of the room that you're in. Nice radiator. Getting those edges, maybe want to get that pipe in, get a little dial there. So yeah, I think that'll do. It's just a kind of rough little exercise, and you can spend as long as you want on it, but yeah, just like a nice way to sort of capture a room and what's in it. So yeah, as I say, a few wee suggestions for that. You can use this for other things. You could put it up, you could cut it up, use it as collage, and you can move around the other rooms in your house and do multiple of these. Okay, so we're going to leave that there for now. Now we're going to go outside. So we're going to think about what the outside of your house looks like. And we are going to use, hopefully, a single potato to make a print of your house. Okay, using quite basic shapes. So whenever I'm thinking about what the outside of houses look like, I'm not being too careful about it, Maybe I'm thinking about your kind of classic house shape. You've kind of got your front, you've got the back of your house or the side of your house, and your your roof that runs along there. Maybe you have a little chimney, and you might want to add some detail in to your roof. So yeah, at this point we're just kind of thinking about the features in really basic shapes. So you can do this too. Start thinking about what your house looks like. Maybe it's a flat, maybe it's a bungalow, but really those shapes that we're going to be making today are mostly quite similar. So yeah, do a really basic drawing of what you think your house kind of looks like. So I'm gonna go with this block of flats because I live in a flat, so I'm gonna make that. So I'm looking at the shapes that we have here. Okay, we've got a triangle here and here. We've got this rectangle shape, quite skinny, and you'll notice this longer one. So we want to use as little of this potato as possible, basically. We don't want to waste it. We want to kind of utilise the best image from as little stamps as possible, okay? So if you want to do a bigger one, maybe you're making this really small scale, maybe your flat's going to be, you know, this kind of size, obviously then you can do that. But I'm going to make mine a wee bit bigger, probably not as big as this. And then you've got your parallelogram for your roof, okay? Maybe I'm going to do chimney, and I'm going to do a door and a little square for a window. So those are all the shapes that I'm going to do, and I'm going to use these to make a print of my flat, okay? So I must say, get an adult to help you with this bit. We're going to be using a sharp knife, so do not do this without someone helping you, okay? And make sure you're doing it on a hard surface. Alright, so we're going to take our potato, we've got our knife. As I've said, we kind of want to use as much of this as possible. We don't want to waste it. You know, we maybe want to cut half of it, set that aside, keep it clean, and if we don't use it, eat it for dinner. So yeah, let's think about the shape of this. So we've got quite long bits here. If I cut it this way, that's not going to give us the biggest surface area. So I'm going to try and cut it long ways. So here we go, and yeah, try and keep this as flat as possible because we want it whenever we stamp onto our page for all of that surface to go down, okay? So we've quite a lot to work with here. I might quickly just take one half and start marking out those shapes. So you'll notice here on this shape, this could be split up into multiple of these, and we can just print, work along. Same for this bit. If we don't have space, you know, we could just make one and work along, and we can make these little bits from offcuts if we have some. So I'm going to set this down this way, and I'm going to start, I'm just going to follow if there's any kind of natural shapes there. Cut this bit off here, and now I want to make a triangle for this part here. Okay. Make sure move that out of the way. Alright. So again, if these are clean, set them aside because you might be able to use them later for your dinner, if not as wee offcuts, okay? But obviously if they're dirty, you're not going to want to use them. Okay, so this is our first little bit. This is our roof. The reason I've done it, I've not kind of carved down into it, is because I think it's really nice to be able to see those exact edges so that whenever you print flat, you know exactly what that's lining up with, and you'll see a bit more clearly whenever I actually start doing it. Okay, so you're going to line this up again. You're going to take your edges here and you're going to cut along. Okay. Maybe do it like that. Alright, so once we flip it over, it's a wee bit wonky, but you can kind of tidy it up, and sometimes wonky's quite nice. So you can see now we have this, and we can use this to print along with multiples. So the last one that we need to do is a little parallelogram for our roof. So hopefully we have enough room here. Not quite, so we might need to use another one. I'm going to set these here. Any of these little offcuts, remember, we can make little doors, maybe a little chimney. So I'm going to cut quite a thin piece, okay, for my chimneys. Flatten that off the edge there, and a wee bit bigger for my doors. Wee bit off still. So maybe I've cut this. It's a bit too square. Let's turn it into a window. That'll do. Okay. And then, let me see, maybe this one could be a door. Alright. So it's a wee bit fiddly. You can kind of just play about until you get the right pieces. And then we'll set all this off to the side. Take our bits, and I'm going to set these on another wee bit of paper just so I'm not getting a mess everywhere, because they can be quite sticky with the starch coming out of the potato. Okay, so take a blank page. So now we can use either some acrylic paint, which you might have. These are quite big, you might have little tubes lying about. I've got a few different colours, you don't need loads, because we're going to try and keep this quite simple, and we can also use our watercolours as well. Alright, so I'm going to do a few of both. Maybe I'll start with some acrylic first of all. Give it a wee shake out onto your palette. Okay, so let's start with the face, our end walls, and work along. And I'm just going to give this a kind of wee flatten out first of all. Okay, give it a good stamp, work it round there so you can see you've got this lovely mark. There's a big glob at the end there actually, so I'm just going to dab that off and then start making our prints. Oh, so you'll see there, that one's not been pushed hard enough and it's not really come out, so you really need to give it a good stamp, maybe wiggle it a wee bit as well. And there we go, we've got our first one. So I'll build up a couple more and maybe leave a little gap there. Might be quite nice because you can go over these again with maybe pen or crayon or something at a later stage. I'm not worried about if there's wee marks like that. It might be quite nice, it kind of gives it a wee bit of character. I'm going to choose yellow for my next colour. Okay, maybe I'll do my roof. So I'm just going to kind of smoosh this out. And I'm going to do it on my end here. Alright. So now we're going to move on and do it along this way. Oh, but you'll notice that I haven't done this right. So you'll see that's because whenever I was cutting it this way, I was following this. So to solve that problem, you can either start with your roof, go along this way, work along this way, or we could just cut this down again. So the easiest way to do that is to line it up here and then make another quick cut. So I'm going to just mark quickly where I want that to be. make that cut there. Alright, so it's a quick fix, but once you've done that, you can kind of work along. So this is pretty rough and ready. Obviously, you're going to be much more careful and accurate with yours, and you'll have longer to get your shapes right with your potato. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and then I'm going to show you how to do a quick watercolour version. Grab another piece of paper, and then maybe let's do green for this one. So with your watercolours, you can keep them quite thick and get them spread on. If you have time, which you will, in between, if you were using this paint and you wanted to swap, just give these a wee rinse off and you can kind of use them again. And these should keep for a few days, so you can get plenty of use out of your stamps. Just wrap them up nice and tight. Oops. Okay, so if you do that, don't worry, you can maybe just make that like a little pattern. And you can work into that later, that might be part of a driveway or something. You can kind of distinguish that with pens later, okay? If you want to just like mark out your edges, this is quite a nice way to add in details that maybe you can't get with other stamps as well. And you can kind of build these up, make little villages in the background. Okay, so let's try a little window. That bit looks quite dry. Maybe I'm going to go back to this type of paint. I'm going to add my little windows in. So you're going to want to wait until these fully dry, obviously, because the colours kind of blur together otherwise. Yeah, so this is kind of bleeding because I haven't left it long enough to dry, but obviously you will in between. Alright, so that's how you use potato stamps to build up a little image of your house. Alright, thank you very much for watching. This is North Lanarkshire Council, and tune in next week for our next video. Thank you.